Hello and welcome to the World Wonders podcast. I'm Ryan.
I'm Amanda, and we're your hosts. And today we're going to be answering some questions.
Yeah. That's what we're going to do.
Okay.
I'm stoked.
So the first question is, what does it feel like to quit your job and go travel the world? Do you want to start, Ryan?
Sure. Since I'm the only other person here.
Well, I could answer first. That's not working though, so you go ahead.
So I guess it's weird doing this travel podcast and living in an area where so many people, virtually everyone I know here in Canmore in the Rockies in Alberta has moved from somewhere else. It's very much like a traveling group of people who end up here. Lots of Australians, people from other places in Canada, but they've moved here to try to have a lifestyle that's enjoyable, and they've usually done that because they've been traveling before and want to continue traveling.
Yeah, it's a pretty transient place to live.
So sometimes I forget that it's not something like everyone does, like just quitting and going and trying to have a massively fun, enjoyable 6-month period or something, year long trip like that. And you when you kind of think of it as normal, you kind of stop thinking about it at all, really, like the feeling of going to do that. Mm-hmm. So in the lead up to quitting my job the last time before I went to South America for 6 months, I remember being having some anxiety about it. Like, what about getting a job when I get back? What about, I'm spending a bunch of money I've saved. What if I invested that money? But then the feeling of quitting and realizing you're about to go on this trip, it's I had feeling of relief a bit for me, mm-hmm. Excitement. The last trip, it was a bit of fear because we were going to Colombia, and I'd read reports online, the stupid government travel warnings about getting kidnapped in taxis and getting mugged and all this crazy stuff. So a bit scared, excited. And yeah, I think my experience was quitting my job that I wasn't really feeling fulfilled in and was feeling very stressed in. It just felt like a massive weight off my shoulders. Mm-hmm. And then, it just a sense of relief and excitement mixed together about going on this big trip.
Yeah.
How about for yourself?
Yeah, I definitely, everything you just said resonates with me. I think for me, if I had to choose one word to describe how it feels, I feel like it'd be bliss. It's just this feeling.
But that's it's not, I don't want to speak for you, but
I think you just tried to.
Well, I just think that maybe because did you not feel any fear, any anxiety, any?
You didn't let me even get into that.
Okay,
I was going to go there.
When you're in bliss, that's just kind of.
But if I was using one word, bliss would be that word, because there's more excitement and happiness, and for me, it was a lot of relief, which felt really good. It felt very, very nice to have quit my job. I felt excited and relieved. I think that there definitely is that fear aspect, though. As much as it was this feeling that I'm going to describe as bliss and happiness, there's kind of this, part in my brain that's thinking constantly. That's did you just make a really bad decision? Are you going to get a job when you get back? Are you going to be able to get a job? Are you ever going to be able to get a job? Because now you've got these massive gaps on your resume and all this sort of nattering. And if you can kind of just shut that up or get that to go away and just focus on what you're really feeling in that moment. And I think that it's a lot of happiness and excitement and that sort of thing. I think though, for me, anything where I don't know what to expect, I always have a bit of fear. And I think that that's pretty normal for most people.
Okay. just going back to the bliss feeling though, like what do you define bliss as?
It's just like a state of like calm, happy, like life is good, life is easy. And that's like to quit your job to go on this trip. It's like, sweet, I don't have any responsibilities. I can just do what I want every day. To me, that's pretty blissful.
Because I feel like, sure, like I get the idea of maybe like serenity, of like, you know, you're on a beach. It's nice. It's calm. No worries.
Yeah.
But the process of like, you know, you've quit your job, you've got to move out of your place, you're packing up a backpack, selling stuff, thinking about where you're going to stay, worrying about getting like what shots and stuff, trying to say goodbye to your friends, trying to finish up at your job.
Yeah, like there's definitely stressful elements to it, for sure. Like there's always a stressful element, but I think that above all of that, when I think of the actual feeling of handing in my resignation letter and being like, I'm done on this day, knowing that I have a flight out of the country, was very blissful for me. That exact feeling was blissful. Yes, there was stress. Yes, there was nervousness. Yes, there was fear. Yes, there was worry. There's all these other feelings. But if I can really zero in on that feeling of quitting my job to travel, I'm going to use the word bliss. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Because if you focus in on all that other stuff, it doesn't even sound appealing, really.
But that's like the excitement. Like there's all this stuff going on. It's like, you know, life's happening. You feel really alive.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be your word, though. It's mine. Yours was relief. Mine's bliss.
Okay. And then, so the other the thought I have that comes up about that, I think there's like a bit of like a mindset change when you have quit your job and are about to go on a trip. We've talked about it before in previous episodes about how like so much of the way you learn to live growing up in, I don't know, Western culture, whatever you want to call it, is about preparing for something in the future that never really arrives. You go to primary school for secondary, you go to secondary for university, you go to university to prepare for a career, you start your career to prepare for your future career, you get promoted, whatever. Yeah. On and on. Maybe you're working towards retirement, I guess, is the end goal.
Just makes me roll my eyes. Like it's just, I don't know, when you put it like that, it's just like, oh, okay, it's this game that you can like never win. Like when do you get to this like place that you're constantly trying to get to? Like you can never get there. Do you know what I mean?
So you feel like you're...
Like when I just think about being a part of that, it just makes me feel really frustrated that I was like so caught up in this, like, oh, okay, like I'll be happy when I get this. I'll be happy when I get this. Like, you know, when I do this, I'll feel better. I'll be in this place. It's like always about trying to reach this end point. And it's like, as soon as you get there, the end point like extends itself again. And I feel like that's just constant if you're always striving for that.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think the change is kind of like subtle. Like you change some like assumptions that you were making without really noticing it.
Yeah.
And that's what, so I was going to say, like traveling, you've now committed to enjoying yourself right now.
Yeah. Which is pretty cool.
You're saying, okay, I'm going to spend my savings. I've made a career move that may be slightly detrimental, although I think it's quite positive overall. Yeah, so I think you kind of just like naturally start enjoying life a bit more.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Oh, show.
Okay, question number 2.
What are the best sunsets you've ever seen?
Okay. I personally don't understand the sunset thing. Like I understand like the sun, you know, moving past the angle on the earth where you can see it.
You understand the scientific concept of a sunset.
Like we've gone to do like sunset watching, like we did it at Sugarloaf Mountain in Rio de Janeiro, Santorini in Greece, where else have we watched sunsets? Thailand, Spain, whatever.
Whitsundays.
And it's
Australia.
like you are there, okay, and the sun's setting, but you can't look at the sun because you're going to burn your eyes out. And then you're just like standing there, and you've got everyone's there to watch this thing that you can't watch because it hurts your eyes.
Oh my gosh.
Like I'm like, okay, we're here to watch this. We're standing on Sugarloaf Mountain. There's crowds of people. I think it's more about taking photos than it's about watching the sunset.
Philosophical question for you. Does the sun set if nobody watches it?
That's not a philosophical question. That's
like, does a tree fall if nobody's there to witness it? It's philosophical. Just answer the question.
That's just interrupting my point.
Okay, sorry. Get back to your point.
Well, so realistically, the sun never sets. It just continues around somewhere else. The world. But that's irrelevant to what we're talking about. So the best sunsets I've ever watched. I feel like, I think it's really nice to be outside while the sun's setting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when I think about the best sunsets, I think about being places where maybe like Koh Tao in Thailand, where we're doing our scuba diving training, and we're just kind of like hanging out, sitting at like a bench on the beach as the sun's setting. But you're just talking to people, enjoying yourself as the sun's setting. Not the famous ones where you go to watch the sunset. I don't feel like that's enjoyable at all.
Something interesting that I actually learned at my yoga teacher training is the reason why it's actually sunsets and sunrises are enjoyable things for humans is it actually switches like the release of our hormones. So as the sun sets, we release melatonin. It calms our nervous system. It prepares us for like sleeping in rest mode, and people really enjoy that feeling of calmness. So I feel like that's part of what we really like, even if people aren't aware of it, is our bodies actually, like the human body actually really enjoys experiencing a sunset and a sunrise because it switches our hormones.
Yeah, maybe not even enjoys, like it's just it's like tuning ourselves back into like you're tuning yourself back into your natural energy levels.
Yeah, for sure. So in terms of the question, is there anywhere in the world that you would travel just to watch a sunset? Or no, a sunset could not get you on a plane to go somewhere?
No.
Okay. Interesting.
I get it, like if you're a photographer, because I think like that's kind of the thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, to me it's like I would love to be somewhere where I've got some people I really enjoy spending time around, and maybe it's warm enough that we're eating outside as the sun is setting.
Mm-hmm.
Like that makes me feel happy.
Yeah. No, that's cool.
But that's not like it's not, top 5 sunsets in the world.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know. I really enjoy watching the sunset. I think it's beautiful. I feel like I've seen some really beautiful sunsets in my time. So some of my favorite sunsets have been, we saw a beautiful sunset in Santa Marta in Colombia. I love when the sky turns a whole bunch of different colors, and it really did that there. So I think that was pretty cool. Santorini does have beautiful sunsets, and you don't have to go to the point to see them. There's a point where you can go and it's just horizons. You really see the sun kind of set over the ocean or rotate, or as the earth rotates away from the sun.
But you don't see, you try to avoid looking at it so you don't hurt your eyes.
I mean, it depends. I actually really like the ones where there's some clouds and it really turns the sky colors and you can really look at it. But Santorini had beautiful ones. We saw a ton of beautiful sunsets in Thailand. I think Koh Tao had some really nice ones. Where else over there?
Yeah,
I mean, Bali had beautiful ones.
The idea that there's like good sunsets, as in like, good food or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
Like,
mean,
it seems
I
kinda
agree
weird.
with
Like, it
you.
seems like they're all kind of like,
I agree with you to a certain point. I don't think that if somebody was like, oh my God, I saw the best sunset in the whole world, like you have to go here just for the sunset. I mean, I'm going to need something more than that to get me on a plane to spend money to go somewhere. And I agree with you that, you know, like I really enjoyed watching the sunset when we were in Ibiza, because you and I had, I just lisped that. Ibiza.
We're so well traveled. I don't call it Ibiza anymore.
Like I really enjoyed, you and I got like kebab or like donaires, and we ate our like cheap kebab and drank some pop like on the side of the rocks. And I feel like that was just a really enjoyable memory for me. And the sunset was beautiful, and I really enjoyed that moment. So I think that was one of my favorites as well. Any additional thoughts on that? I guess maybe what I'm trying to say is that you can see beautiful sunsets in a lot of different places in the world, probably even from your backyard, depending on, you know, the weather outside and the cloud conditions, etc. And it's kind of just how you choose to take in that sunset, because you don't have to be somewhere amazing for the sunset to be beautiful.
Yeah, that's kind of what I would say. Like, anywhere you are, there's nice sunsets. Mm-hmm. Like, there's somewhere in your city where you can go and get a nice view, or just be outside at that time of day.
Yeah.
The idea of so I just think about, you know, everyone hiking up to that Sugarloaf Mountain in Rio to watch the sunset. Mm-hmm. I just find that like a little bit ridiculous.
It was a pretty beautiful sunset. I'd probably recommend that for anyone who likes sunsets and who, especially like if you're into like
taking photos and saying you did that, than about actually like enjoying it, because there's so many people up there.
Yeah, that's
and everyone's
true.
Just crowding to take photos, and you can't really look at it because the sun's right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear what you're saying for sure. So the next question is, how do you fund your travels?
So, it's been different every time we've traveled. The first time was through working.
It's
always through working.
But it's all been through money.
So the first time we went after university, and I had, we had worked through university and after university for a short period of time. You know, we were both lucky enough to have university. Being in Canada, university is inexpensive to begin with, and then have
inexpensive. Did you say
relative to other places, and so able to come out of university without student debt and with some savings that we were able to use to travel. Then we worked for 2 years in kind of career-oriented jobs. So making good money and able to save. But I think funding your travels is more about lifestyle than it is about income, because there are, you know, so many options available to you while you're traveling to do that at whatever income level you're at. Like, even if you have no savings, you can travel. You can work at hostels, you can woof, you can do workaways, you can
couch surf,
teach English. Like, you can actually make substantial amounts of money just with your being a native English speaker. And if you have some savings, you can do all those things to really extend your savings. You can choose locations that are going to allow you to travel. For example, instead of going to Europe, go to Central America, and you'll be able to travel like 5 times as long.
Yeah, for sure.
And the second part of that lifestyle equation is about the lifestyle you're leading at home while you are trying to earn money, save money to travel. I know for me, when I was making substantially more money at my previous job before we went to South America, I was spending that money on ridiculous things and not really saving much of it at all. Like, I was able to save enough for us to travel, but that only really came towards the end of when I was like, okay, shit, we're going traveling. I need money to do this.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to start making those decisions to save.
Yeah.
Because for me, it was just, would spend money to try to make myself happy because I wasn't happy.
Yeah, for sure.
So a lot of that went into food, like buying, going out for lunch, going out for dinner, buying like really nice food items that I didn't really need to afford and I didn't really even enjoy. Like I'd go buy some sort of expensive dinner and watch it in front of the TV, not even being present with the food.
Yeah, not even really enjoying like the gourmet priciness of it.
Yeah, and then go out drinking and spend money at the bar. So funding your travels is, very, very doable. It's just about living within your means and being able to realize that spending your money to try to make yourself happy isn't going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to be thrifty and be able to do that.
Yeah, for sure. And I've had a lot of friends ask me how I've been able to afford it, especially, friends who make more money than me seem to be really confused as to where I get this money from. The first trip, same as Ryan, like in my fourth year of university, I worked 3 part-time jobs. So it's like, yes, I had my university paid for. So I was fortunate enough to come out of university without debt, but I also worked to make that money to travel. And then it is really easy to spend money when you've got a consistent paycheck, when you've got paid vacation, when you've got sick days. And for me, it was a lot about, saying no to after work drinks or, if going out with friends, it's like, okay, well, that's fine, but I'm not spending any money if we go to the bar. And ways that I actually got myself there was having a budget app on my phone that I always used. So it's like I had to put stuff in there and, if I spent $5 on a latte, I felt pretty guilty about that as I put it in. And it's over time you realize that that's just making you feel worse. And $5 is a meal in somewhere like Colombia or Ecuador or Bolivia.
Yeah, good meal.
Yeah. So that latte goes a long ways when you're somewhere else. So I basically stopped spending money on like anything like coffee. I would not even have cash or a card in my purse if I went out to the bar. I'd have literally enough to get a cab home. And that was all. So I didn't even have the option to spend money if I went somewhere. Shopping was a huge thing. Probably a lot of girls out there, you can relate to that. There was always this, idea in my head that I needed something new to wear to work. You never really need something new to wear. You've probably got an extensive wardrobe. It's probably a want, and in that case, maybe you should think about why you're buying it for yourself.
But that's not something that's something you've also had struggles with.
Yeah, and it's something, I work in a retail clothing store now, so it's something that I still struggle with. And I find that, I don't spend money on alcohol and I don't really go out now that we live somewhere doesn't really have that scene, and I don't spend as much money on going out for food. But when we get something that I like in the store and I'm like, oh, I want to buy this, or I'm like, oh, I'm just going to buy this. Sometimes I'm like, okay, am I buying this because I really want this, or am I buying this because, I'm having a bad week? And I think it's just about being aware of what why you're spending money on this stuff, because you really don't need these things. I really don't need these things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's important to not beat yourself up either, because you're never going to be perfect. It's just trying to put it in perspective. It's like, okay, that $20 shirt is, 3 nights accommodation somewhere in Central America or South America or Southeast Asia.
Yeah, I think that really helps, like having a really clear conception of what you want to be saving money for. Like if you say, I'm saving money for this vague thing, mm-hmm. it's not going to work. If you're like, okay, this, every time you go to spend, you're keeping track of that, and you've got a clear conception of what that could buy you somewhere else, I think that really helps motivate you. Totally.
It's a really good way to put it into perspective in your head as to where your money's going now.
And I think what you said about don't beating yourself up, like that was something I struggled with with budgeting would set like a really tight budget. And then as soon as I would go over for that month, I would feel bad, stop using my budget app, and then,
the control.
But yeah, because then you avoid thinking about it because you feel guilty, you feel bad emotions connected with that and don't want to think about it.
Yeah, for sure. I get that.
Yeah. And the other thing is like, it's always harder to add a habit than it is to just not do something. So like there are savings plans that will automatically take money out of deposits into your account, like on your bank account. And you can set yourself up in a way that you don't have to use willpower to save, which is a very good way to help make yourself do that.
Yeah, for sure. And if you're somebody out there who's thinking like, oh, there's no way I could do this, I always spend all my money, go to your bank and sit down with somebody who this is their career, is to help people with their finances.
People at banks kind of suck though.
Yeah, but
in general,
they might be better than somebody who doesn't know how to budget at all. If they can put in auto.
I think the best resources for budgeting stuff aren't really even about like, it's not about techniques. It's kind of like about psychology. It's about realizing where you're spending money and it's not spending money for no purpose. Like for me, something I realized only like not even with like a year ago was that when I felt stressed, I would go want to buy something like delicious to eat. So like I noticed like after work a lot of days had this urge to go to like the grocery store. I was like, oh, like that's where that comes from.
Yeah. I'm
trying to make myself happy with like chocolate covered ginger or chocolate or stuff like that. And doesn't work.
Yeah.
So, if you realize this thing you keep doing doesn't work, it's hard to change that habit, but that's how you start saving money because you stop wasting money.
Yeah, for sure. That's totally, yeah. You've nailed that with the hammer. Is that the saying?
I think you just say nailed it.
Oh, okay. My bad.
Nailed it with the hammer.
What's the next question?
The next question is, if you had a free airline ticket to anywhere in the world, where would you go? And let's say it is a return ticket and you're only going for a month.
Okay. I'm just thinking. Awkward pause. So somewhere that I really want to go that I haven't been is I really want to go to Easter Island off the coast of Chile. That really entices me. So I'd love to go there. I'm just going to name a few places.
No, you can only pick one.
I know, but just for the purpose of the podcast, I want to pick a few.
No.
Okay, I said, when we were talking about before the podcast, I said Bora Bora. I think Bora Bora would be pretty cool. Have you seen those photos with those huts that are up above the water? Looks magical.
Sorry, so if you had a free airline ticket, where would you go?
Like right in this moment?
Like the flight leaves tomorrow.
Ooh, that's hard. Madagascar.
Okay, why?
Well, there was a girl in my yoga teacher training who just got a job there. She's a marine biologist and she does scuba diving, which is a pretty damn cool job. But Madagascar has a ton of wildlife and you can do a ton of hiking there. And I think that would be really interesting. And I'd also love to scuba dive there. And I think that the culture there would be pretty interesting. I don't know much about it, but I really like the kids' movies. So why not?
Cool.
But I also want to go to Easter Island and Bora Bora. So let's not count those out. Where would you go?
So the thing that popped into my head was China.
Ooh, China.
Which isn't kind of something I was like logically thinking about. Yeah. But I think like free airline ticket. And since it's only like a 1 month round trip thing, I want to go somewhere far away.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Because then you're getting more value.
Okay. You would think like that.
So, and then I'm like, oh, going to Japan would be sweet, but I kind of have this irrational fear of getting irradiated by Fukushima.
Okay. But you don't have any irrational fears of not being able to breathe from the pollution in China?
That's probably more of a health risk.
Yeah. China would be cool though. Like it's lots of stuff to do. I feel like China's probably up there for me too.
Yeah. Maybe Croatia. I don't know. I'm doing the same thing you did now.
Yeah. Now you're judging. You were judging before, but it's actually not that easy.
No. Questions like these are like, I think like picking places to go is so like, it's hard. Like we talked about in a few other episodes, but it's also like, there's no wrong answers. There's no right answers.
Oh yeah, no. And I think, I guess to me, the purpose of sort of a question like this is to just, so when you are put in a situation where you're like, if you had one place to go to for 1 month with a return flight and you were leaving tomorrow, where would you choose? It really sort of gets your mind, like you're really kind of forced to think about, what kind of trip would I really like to go on? Like what am I wanting to do right now? And I think part of the reason why I was like Bora Bora is because it's raining right now and I'd really like to be somewhere that's like kind of warm and sunny. Mm-hmm. But it's like when I actually think about it, that's probably not where I want to go for a month right now.
Yeah, maybe I'd go to Peru.
I think we need to just move on from this question.
Okay.
Might go to India, Africa.
So the last question is, what is your least favorite city you've ever been to?
Ooh, that's kind of a tough one. Can you go first?
So this is kind of like we talked about in the last question, but like every place, like when you're traveling somewhere, even when you're living somewhere, your experience there is way more to do with you than with that place.
Yeah.
That said, like there are places where there's nice stuff that you enjoy and places where there isn't much stuff that you enjoy.
Yeah.
I remember being quite happy to leave Puno in Peru.
Yeah, Puno. Yeah, Puno.
I remember being quite happy to leave Potosi in Bolivia.
Potosi. Do you want to just tell our listeners sort of what your reasoning is for choosing those as cities, like why you were happy to leave Puno and Potosi?
So both of those had a lot to do with like kind of the comfort of the accommodations not being very high. Puno in particular, it was like because it's high up in like the plateau on the Andes by Lake Titicaca. It's really cold at night, and our hostel had like no heat.
Oh yeah.
It also didn't have a door on the washroom, and there's like steam would get in the room when you shower, and then it'd get like damp and gross.
Oh, and it's also like you're traveling through. We just traveled through Bolivia. Like we were both sick at some point, so it's like gotta go to the bathroom. You can either listen or leave, which is just awkward. It doesn't matter how close you are. It's weird. And
then there's just like not like there was one really nice restaurant we went to.
Oh yeah, that was really good, but it was expensive.
Yeah, and other than that, we just like there wasn't really much stuff to do that I found interesting.
So the reason that Puno is actually popular is because it's on Lake Titicaca, which is the world's highest lake, and it has the floating islands. So it's a group of Peruvian Aboriginal people have used reeds from the lakes to make these islands that they live on. And they go back and forth from the mainland to trade their goods so they can go out and so that they can cook and actually live a life. It's become very, very touristic though. So it doesn't really feel very authentic. It feels like they're putting on this show for you. And so it's kind of awkward.
Yeah. And that's almost like an understatement to say it feels like they're putting on a show.
I think they are putting on a show.
Like
they're like, oh, come look at my home. This is where I live. I'm like, is this really where you live?
Oh, no, it's absolutely not. It's just like so over the top.
Yeah. Tell our listeners about what they're saying.
I don't even remember what
they
song
sang
it is.
Twinkle Twinkle Little Star.
They make everyone get all the supposed native people get together and sing this song.
It's weird though, because after we're done, we like get back on our little boat thing, and you see them all get in like little boats and leave, and it's like, oh, so you don't live there? Just like leaving to go back to your actual home before you come back to put on your next show. And I mean, I get the idea of setting up sort of like a staged area that's kind of like where they live because they don't want tourists in their actual homes. But then it's like, just don't do it.
Well, that's something I don't get about so much tourist stuff where they try to make it like I don't even know how to express it. Like they tune it down to like the lowest common denominator, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Like instead of us showing up and being like, hey, you know, there's still people who live on these reefs. They're over there. That's kind of their town. And we're going to show you how this is done, like how this floating thing works. Right. There's got to have like a performance, and people are wearing the native things, and they like pretend to bring you into their houses. And it reminds me of going to this salt mine in Salzburg in Austria.
Yeah.
And like there's all these animatronic people fake mining, and it's just this ridiculous kitschy experience. And instead of just leaving it open and saying like kind of educating you about what happened there, and you know, letting you enjoy and be interested and curious about this.
Yeah they just like don't, like, it just feels really
it's just
fake.
like it's putting on a strange show.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So how about you? What's your least favorite city?
I was just thinking about it. I really didn't enjoy Phnom Penh in Cambodia. I feel like I got very little enjoyment out of being in Phnom Penh. We stayed at a hostel that had bed bugs, so it's fairly unpleasant to sleep in. We spent the night kind of tucked up, like in sleeping sheets, wearing way too much clothing. The city is just, you know, it has a lot of really bad history. The people have suffered a lot, and you kind of have that mood in the city. And I feel like it was really hard to be a tourist there. I felt guilty for a lot of it. Where else did I enjoy?
Well, weird thing about Phnom Penh, like, it seems like there's this like really showiness about like the rich people, like all the people driving Lexus SUVs, and then on the side of the car it says like Lexus in gigantic letters.
Yeah.
Which like contrast against like the poverty you've seen somewhere like Siem Reap, and even just within Phnom Penh, like the poverty you see against these people like really being showy about driving around their nice SUVs. It's a very strange contrast, and it makes you feel definitely like a little bit grossed out.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't really love Iquitos in Peru, like in the jungle, like the city itself. Like obviously, you know, people go there to experience the Amazon and all that sort of stuff, which I think is cool. But we, you know, I think we had like half a day or a day in the actual city, and it was just not what I expected. There was so much noise and so much traffic, and
it's like
shocking
how loud it is.
Yeah. So I didn't really like that city. I think if I was to go back there, I would plan whatever excursion I was doing so that I wasn't staying in Iquitos at all, and that I was immediately leaving the city. So that's the end of our questions. Do you have anything else to add, Ray?
We'd love to hear your responses to these questions.
Yeah, so contact us at www.theworldwanders.com. And we're on Twitter and Facebook, so give us a like or a follow there. Feel free to reach out to us with any questions, comments, or feedback. We'd love to hear from you. And most importantly, thanks for listening.
Ciao.
Bye.